The acrid stench of sulfur and ozone clung to the air like a suffocating blanket. Through the haze, Elias squinted at the skeletal remains of a forest, bleached bones against a backdrop of cracked, sickly yellow earth. Each breath was a ragged gasp, the respirator barely filtering the toxic atmosphere. He knelt, the reinforced fabric of his hazmat suit crinkling. Once, these woods had pulsed with life, but now, even the insects were long silent. A stubborn blade of grass, impossibly green, fought its way through a fissure in the parched ground. Elias's scarred fingers trembled as he caressed the miracle. "Hold on," he whispered, a prayer to a world that no longer listened. The automated door hissed shut behind him at the sanctuary, a stark barrier against the decaying world. The dome gleamed beneath artificial sunlight. Its vibrant heart pulsed with verdant green, a defiant symphony of life in a dying world. Elias moved among the towering terrariums, gnarled vines and bursting blooms, a ghostly caretaker tending his verdant kingdom. Each sapling, each fragile leaf, whispered stories of a forgotten time when nature reigned supreme. They were not just plants, but survivors whispering of resilience. His footsteps faltered near his most prized possession, a single, ancient oak. Its bark, gnarled and twisted with the weight of centuries, still bore the tiniest flicker of green. Elias placed a weathered hand on its trunk, the rough surface starkly contrasting his smooth, protected skin. "Just a little longer, old friend," he murmured, his voice choked with a mix of hope and despair. A tremor shook the sanctuary, the tremor of failing systems barely held together by his tireless work. An automated voice blared a warning of imminent power failure, its mechanical tone mocking the impending disaster. Elias raced through the winding paths of his indoor jungle, past delicate orchids and towering ferns, towards the sanctuary's failing heart, the power generator. Tools were his instruments of salvation, wrenches his weapons in this desperate struggle against entropy. Sweat mingled with the metallic tang of fear as he fought against the dying machine. It coughed, sputtered, and with a final wheezing groan, coughed back to life. Lights flared overhead, casting stark shadows over the precious greenery. Elias sagged against the generator, his body echoing the exhaustion of the aged machine. Had he won this battle against darkness, or merely postponed defeat? Sleep came fitfully, haunted by visions of withered leaves and crumbling bark. Each awakening was a jolt back to his grim reality, the sole caretaker of the world's last breath. Days blurred into a green-tinged haze. Elias nurtured, pruned, cross-pollinated, and coaxed life from stubborn seeds. News bulletins crackled over an ancient radio, voices tinny with panic and despair. Protests turned into riots, governments dissolved into chaos, and all the while, his garden breathed a defiant sigh of life against encroaching death. Then came the day the radio fell silent. Isolated, he clung to his routine with desperate tenacity. Water dripped in measured intervals onto thirsty soil, the soft hiss a soothing rhythm against the oppressive silence. Yet, a nagging dread burrowed deep inside him. His sanctuary was not just a garden, it was a tomb, a beautiful, fragrant tomb, sheltering the last remnants of an extinct world. One morning, an anomaly pierced the verdant tranquility. A speck of vibrant red danced against the foliage, and a flicker of excitement stirred within him. A cardinal, perhaps, a defiant splash of colour in the relentless grey. Elias edged closer, his heart thundering against the limitations of his hazmat suit. In a burst of crimson and brown, a small bird darted from its leafy refuge and perched precariously on the weathered bark of the ancient oak. Its head cocked, the bird's eyes glittered with a startling life he hadn't witnessed in decades. A seed nestled within its beak, a precious burden carried across barren lands. This was not merely a survivor, but a herald of hope. The bird flitted back to the oak, dropped its seed into a gnarled crevice, and took flight again against the backdrop of the ruined world. Elias felt a wellspring of emotion erupt within him, a mix of wonder, elation, and the stirring of a desperate plan. The sanctuary's airlock was designed to protect, not release. His clumsy attempts at breaching its seal were slow and frustrating. Tools not meant for demolition bit and screeched against the unyielding metal. Yet, for the first time in years, his labor was fueled not by duty, but by a daring, defiant purpose. Days later, gaunt and bruised, he pried open the airlock. The putrid air blasted him back, a brutal reminder of the world he had held at bay for so long. Elias steadied himself, his eyes fixed on the ancient oak. If a single seed could journey across the ravaged land, perhaps the garden wouldn't always be a tomb. Maybe it was time to set the captives free. He activated the release valves on the terrariums, letting his precious plants face the crucible of the outside world. Seed pods, spores, and saplings tumbled forth into the wasteland, carried by a gentle breeze of his own creation. Here, amidst the bleakness, was his final gift, an audacious shot at redemption, a chance for green defiance to sprout once again. Would they thrive? Would they wither? He might never know. That was no longer his burden. Elias slumped against the airlock, exhaustion washing over him. As the polluted sky swirled above, he thought of the bird, the oak, and the scattered seeds. His legacy was uncertain, but after years of preservation, he finally became a sower of hope. Years unfurled like withered leaves. Elias, a frail figure cloaked in faded coveralls, still haunted the ravaged lands. But he was no longer alone. Here and there, stubborn shoots defied the poisoned soil. Delicate flowers bloomed where concrete had cracked, their petals like defiant shouts of colour against the grey. The ancient oak still stood, now transformed. Its once bare branches overflowed with lush vegetation. Vines twined, leaves fluttered, and bird song filled the poisoned air. No longer merely a survivor, it was a thriving heart in the desolate landscape, a living testament to resilience. One day his weary steps led him to a small clearing. His heart faltered. Sunlight dappled over a carpet of lush green, tender saplings reaching towards the sky. A new forest was pushing back the wasteland, a symphony of determined life spurred into being by his act of defiance. Elias knelt, his trembling fingers tracing over a perfect oak leaf. Hot and unexpected tears mingled with the dirt on his face. It was an imperfect paradise, marred by the scars of a dying world, but it throbbed with life, a vibrant promise whispering a story of rebirth. His work was done. The last garden no longer needed a caretaker. It had found its own custodians within the tenacious web of birds, insects, soil, and seeds. Elias, the old botanist, had simply planted the first sprigs of defiance, a testament to the enduring spirit of life. Would humanity ever reclaim this scarred world? Perhaps, perhaps not. But the earth itself would heal, and in its healing, the legacy of one man and his defiant garden would always echo.